Well, today, hundreds of people gathered in St. John Parish to celebrate Juneteenth, which is now an official parish holiday. Danny Monteverdi has more.
Hundreds of people marched along Airline Highway in LaPlace Friday morning. It was a combination rally for social justice and the first official celebration of Juneteenth. The parish council on Wednesday made the day a formal holiday in St. John Parish.
We have such a good event here today, which shows that our community is coming together to speak out against injustices that we have in the world.
Juneteenth celebrations are growing in popularity this year following the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. The celebrations are also a reminder of the past, recognizing the day slavery ended. At St. John Parish, some of those who marched have ties to that time.
We are the descendants of the 1811 slave revolt. We cannot forget, we will always fight, and we will win. Yes, sir.
That revolt, the largest in U.S. history, began at Woodland Plantation in LaPlace, about a mile away from Friday's march.
And we are marching in their honor, and we are fighting for freedom.
Some, including the son of St. John Sheriff Mike Trigg, say they want to take this time to rebuild bonds that have broken.
There are members of this movement that also wear a blue stripe. So I think it's important, and I'm glad that this parish has come together to do this.
With an eye toward the past, those who marched also looked toward the future. Reporting in LaPlace, Danny Monteverdi, Eyewitness News.
And thousands of people are marching across the nation, probably hundreds of thousands actually, on this 155th Juneteenth. This year's commemoration has special meaning. Weeks of protests sparked by racially charged killings of several African Americans by police or civilians has raised awareness of the annual June 19th memorial.